It'll be 1 to go this time by. Coming to the green, buddy, coming to the green. Let's go get him. Go, 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 go!
Get your motor running. Head out on the highway.
Go ahead in the front.
Jeffrey Miller, AOL Sports. Had a bad run at Texas. You ran better at Charlotte. What has your team done to become better on these intermediate tracks? And do you come into this weekend feeling positive, feeling like you're going to have a good run, or do you feel a little uneasy about how the car will handle?
I mean, I'm feeling pretty positive because we've tested twice at Kentucky, and and a lot of what we've been doing at Kentucky is putting different tires on there. Like, you've got the California. Basically, it's right side tires. They're the biggest difference. But you got the California tire, then you've got the Texas tire and the Michigan tire, and we've seen a big difference in how those tires react. And so it's really been about learning what the tires do so that we can come here and be prepared for it. So, I feel a lot better about coming in here than the way we came out of Texas, that's for sure.
Go ahead, David.
David Caravello, NASACR.com. Jeff, so many of the owners in this sport used to be former competitors, guys like Richard Childress and Robert Yates, who just moved from one arena into the ownership arena. And it's kind of gotten away from that for several reasons. But how important is it to have guys like you, guys like Tony now having an ownership role where you have that tangible link between guys who were competitors moving into ownership?
Well, no offense to Richard Childress, I think there's a big difference between Richard Childress and Tony Stewart as drivers. And his owners. I think that I would maybe compare more to Richard Petty than here's a guy that had a tremendous amount of success as a driver, but they also owned their equipment along the way. So that's the difference. But I think that. Rick Hendrick, I think that you're talking about a different time and different age of when guys came in and owned the cars and could go and drive the cars and compete and have fun. And you look at other forms of motorsports, not necessarily IRL, but maybe the Grand Am Series, and you have some owner drivers that like to go out there and just have fun. Well, this sport is far beyond that. It's a big business, and I think those guys are probably recognized as better businessmen than they were race car drivers. And Tony, I would definitely think would be considered a much better race car driver than a businessman, and hopefully with this venture I think he's going to prove that he's a good businessman as well. I base a lot of things throughout my career on Dale Earnhardt. Dale was not a scholar by any means, but he was a professor in the School of Hard Knocks. He was very street smart. He learned from people that he worked with, like Richard Childress, and in that sense, in this sport, he was very smart. And I was impressed by that, and I feel that I have kind of come along in that same way. I'm not a scholar. I didn't excel in school. I didn't go to college, but I feel like I've been a sponge and have learned from a lot of different people along the way, and you become pretty smart in your world, and and experience is key to that, and I think Tony it fits that model very, very well, but I can't compare it at all to what those guys did. And you'd have to talk to Richard Childress and Rick Hendrick and some of those guys, and maybe let them answer that question. They could probably do a better job than I could.
David.
Yeah, David Newton, ESPN.com. Kyle Busch is on a roll with 6 or 8 wins, a third of the wins this year. You've been on that kind of roll before when you won 13 and 98, and not a lot of drivers have won double-digit races or during the season. What's it like when you get on one of those rolls?
Yeah, it's crazy. You're going along there and you've got a strong car, strong team. You feel like you're doing a good job, and you're winning races that you feel like you as a team really worked hard and earned. But then you start winning races that you felt like you shouldn't have won, and it just kind of boggles your mind, and that's kind of the way I've seen those guys. They're strong. They're very good. They've done a great job, and they put themselves in position to win races, and some people have kind of just given the races away, but for the most part they've earned every one of them, and and that they're tough. They're very strong right now, and I think it's everybody's goal out there to try to break that momentum that they have, especially as we get closer and closer to the chase. But nobody's been able to do it yet, so we'll see.
And second question, with Martin's announcement last week, how tough is it going to be on Rick next year to convince every one of you guys you can be the guy to win the championship? I mean, is he going to have a fine line to toe there with all of you?
I think Rick's been pretty good at balancing that out over all the years. So far, I think he'll do fine there. I mean, there are no team orders. It's about how you gel with your team and utilize the resources. He's only going to encourage us all, to really work closely together at the debriefs. If it's just like the other night at Daytona. With that being a handling racetrack, even though there's a restrictor plate, you saw very few teammates working with one another, and it wasn't because they didn't want to. It just you couldn't. It's just the nature of the way that race was. And those races are going to happen. Sometimes you're going to be able to help your teammates. Sometimes you're not. But at the end of the day, every team out there, every driver out there wants to win the race, and you're going to do what it takes to win the race. It's our job to make sure we're the ones trying to win the race, and same with our teammates, and I think that we've got an incredible lineup for next year, and I'm excited. And I think that Mark brings a tremendous amount of information, experience, drive to our organization that I think there's more positives that come out of it than negatives, but the negative might be we might have to battle for against him for the championship like our other teammates.
We'll go Jerry and then Bob Margolis.
Jerry Bunkowski, Yahoo Sports. Jeff, you talked about Dale Earnhardt and the influence he had on you. This is the 50th anniversary of Richard Petty's first Cup race. Your first Cup race was his last Cup race. Can you kind of talk about what he's meant to you, both on and off the racetrack? What he's helped you with, what you've learned from him, that kind of thing.
Earnhardt or Petty? Well, I mean, to me, one of the biggest impacts that Richard made to me was in that race at Atlanta. I'll never forget staying on top of the trailer in the garage area watching, I don't know if it was our practice or another practice or what it was, and I remember Richard walking through the garage area and signing every single autograph. Every person, I mean, he was mobbed. He was just unbelievable that weekend of the number of people that were surrounding him. And he was so generous and nice, and just trying to do everything he could for every person. And I didn't get the opportunity to race wheel to wheel with him. I don't think we raced wheel to wheel that day, but certainly that was the only race that I really ever competed with Richard Petty in. And we both kind of went up in a ball of flames. To me, it's the example that he set for the drivers as to how to be fan-friendly, how to represent the sport, how to compete and be, at the top of your game, and he sets the bar in every category. And it's more by the history and looking at the stats. And then I had that one moment, of that race. That weekend to recognize what he did, his involvement with the fans.
Could you ever envision yourself for 50 years like he did?
No. 50 years? No. I hope I'm around in the sport for 50 years, but it won't be as a driver.